and thinking about Juneteenth, I'm always reading about different folks and what happened. If you don't know the story of Juneteenth, how many of you know the story of how Juneteenth came about? I see a few hands. Yeah. All right. Well, imagine this. Okay, so the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so everybody who heard about it, they were freed up. But then, some folks down in Texas who own some captives, they said, I ain't telling my people. I'm not telling my captives. I'm going to get some more free work out of them. So he worked them for 2 more years. It was 1865 when they found out. And it happened that a soldier, Union soldier, came down and read the proclamation that said that they were free and that they no longer had to work for free, that now they could work for a wage. So, of course, some of the folks, you know what they did? Bye. Some of them said, I'll see you later. I don't want to stay here and work for a wage. I'm going to go looking. And some folks did go looking for family members because that system called slavery said that we, people who look like me, that we were just, a piece of cattle, a piece of property, and that we could be sold off and away. And so folks had been sold away. Mothers sold from children. And, the fathers sold away. And so, they would go looking, and they looked for festivals and meetings and church meetings and all of that. And when they get to a church meeting, and have a little food and look around, looking to see, you look like, my goodness, you sure enough look like my sister and I'm missing, and they see somebody that look like their sister or their brother or their father, and sometimes you would hear them all sing together. I am so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. Now there was a man named William Robinson, and he went looking. He was looking for his mother because his father had been sold away, and he promised his father that he would look after his mother. But his mother was sold away, and he wasn't able to save her, keep her, And so he attacked the man who owned them all. He attacked him with an axe handle. And of course, after he hit him with that axe handle, he ran. But it took him 15 years. 15 years for him to find his mother. But he finally found her, because he felt that he must, because he had promised his father that he was going to take care of his mother. And so when he found her, of course, he sang, I am so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. So glad you're here. So some folks stayed down there in the South and worked the land, and some moved to the North because they were sure that's where freedom was. And that's how it was with us as we moved. But as folks moved away from Texas, they said, hey, we've got to remember what is going on, how we came up with this Juneteenth, this celebration, our day of freedom. So it happened to be June 19th, and so 1865. So you know how we are with words? Yes, sir. we got away with words. So it wasn't June 19th. It became Juneteenth. That's how. Yeah, because we got that way, We just, kind of contracted a little bit. But that's how it was that we began to celebrate Juneteenth. Those folks who had been in Texas and wanted to remember how it was that some folks had to work much longer because some folks are greedy. And so I want to welcome you. I think we got some folks here in place now. and so that's just the story to kind of remind you of why we do this. And so we must have the celebrations. We must tell the stories of our past so that it is not forgotten.